Good evening and welcome to Conversations with a Commissioner. This is our fifth such event in the last month or so. This will be the last one we're doing for the third quarter. And these events differ from our bigger COVID town halls that you may have attended over the last several months. These events are designed to get you a little better acquainted with your county commissioner. And we do them once every quarter for each commissioner. And tonight, our host is Commissioner Kathleen Conti of District 1, and she is joined by her special guest, Bryan Weimer, who is the director of our Public Works and Development Department. These two will be walking you through the latest county business. This will have some COVID content, but it's not a COVID-specific town hall. This is more for you to get a handle on everything that we've been doing in the county during all this time, because we have indeed been taking care of all the business that normally comes through our doorways and our transoms and so forth for the last 6 months, even though we've had to focus on other things in addition to that. We'll do another round of these in Q4, and they probably will end up being virtual again, unfortunately. Normally, we like to do them in person in the district, maybe at a library or a school or something like that, but we haven't been able to do that recently for obvious reasons. But we're glad to be able to join you virtually tonight. Before we get started, I just want to tell you a little bit about how it's going to work. If you are joining us online, you can and you want to ask a question of the Commissioner or Director Weimer, you can post it on our Facebook page in the comments section. You can also put it on our town hall webpage. There's a entry field there for you to enter a question if you want, and you can also ask a question by phone by pressing *3, and you'll be directed to an operator who will then push you through when it comes time to answer questions. So before we get started, let me just say welcome again, and I'd like to introduce Commissioner Conti.
Good evening, and thank you, Luke. It is a pleasure to be with you tonight. I've obviously been serving the county for the last 4 years. And prior to being a county commissioner, I was a state representative for 6 years. So I was able to bring that experience with me down to the county level, which I believe has served the county very well. So that's a little bit about my background. Let's see, who else would like to? Bryan, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Ryan, I think you're muted. I don't know if you have the ability to unmute yourself. Well,
Or is he?
yeah, he's there, but he's trying to talk, but somehow he's not being heard.
No.
Technical glitches.
Do you want to start with the slides?
Sure. Yeah, we'll go ahead and trust that they'll get that figured out by the time that it's time for Bryan to give his part of the presentation.
How about now?
Oh,
there
he is.
Hi, I'm Bryan Weimer, and I'm Director of Public Works for Arapahoe County. Public Works provides the road maintenance, the transportation planning, capital improvements, the planning, current and long-range animal services, zoning, code enforcement, and building services in terms of building permits and that sort of thing within unincorporated Arapahoe County. So I'm glad to be here and happy, and we'll be talking about the transportation plan and happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thanks, Bryan. Now I'm so glad that you're here, and I'm so glad that all of you are with us tonight as well. This has been a particularly busy year for us at the county, and even apart from the COVID crisis, we've had a number of big projects that are ongoing and upcoming. I'd like to give you an overview of some of these items today, and I also want to hear from you about your hopes and aspirations for the county. So let's dive in. Next slide. We still have, we've already had a record turnout for the June 30th primary, and we're anticipating, uh, oh, yes, yeah, we're anticipating an even higher interest in November. We're hiring election judges. If you're interested in that, visit arapahoevotes.com for more information about that. And we are committed to a good process and increasing communication with voters, particularly in a year when we're likely to see mail-in voting higher than usual because of the COVID crisis. We have 32 secure drop boxes that are set up around the county in addition to our voting centers. And regardless of whether you vote by mail or submitting your ballot via the Dropbox or by visiting our voting center in person, we are urging everyone to vote early. The earlier you vote, the earlier that they can get those ballots processed. I do have the assurance of a Peg Pearl, as I was on a call with her the other day. Those votes are not counted until 7 p.m. on election night is when the counting begins, but they do get them processed and in the machine ready to be counted and all set up. And so as of 7 p.m., and then it can process it very quickly on election night. So if you vote early, you're going to have a much better likelihood of, and then if something's wrong with your ballot, we get, the parties get the lists of, who went into the provisional and if your ballot needs to be cured, and those kind of things can happen. We're very confident. Let's see here. We are very confident in our ability to conduct secure elections. That also keeps everyone safe from the COVID concerns. Let's see here. Motor vehicle and recording offices. We're not able to have all of our staff work remotely because of our transactions require payments and receipts and our staff that use the state's computer system. Even so, we're currently serving between 60 and 70% of the pre-COVID customer numbers, approximately 1,000 a day. We've also installed drop boxes at all locations to facilitate contactless service. And we're exploring making payments via the phone payment. We're looking into that. We're actively assessing opportunities in the recording sections to digitize our records to help increase an online public access and reduce the need for you to have to come into the county in person. In addition to that. So those are just some of the ways that we're trying to increase our online services for you over in the motor vehicle and recording offices. Next slide. There we go. The 2020 census is also drawing to a close. As you know, this is required every 10 years. The census data helps determine whether or not we get a new congressional seat. And Colorado is poised to pick up another congressional seat. So it just depends on how those numbers come in. And so we hope that you have already sent in your census data because it really does impact our funding for many of our services, such as economic development, housing assistance, transportation improvements, and other very critical services, and also our Human Services Office. Our service areas include a diverse population and geography, and really we are a very diverse county. Some areas very urban, some areas very rural. And so we really, there's a whole host of different services that need to happen for the different geography areas. And this is why accurate census data is so important. Next slide. Okay. We recently closed the public comment period for the master plan process for our open space program. You may know that a quarter-cent sales tax helps to fund that program and the parks and trails and open space for the county. Now, that program has been around for a few years, and we are certainly hoping that you are wanting to plan for the future with that. It is of great benefit to our citizens, and I think people really took advantage of that during the COVID, when, to enjoy the outdoors in a safe and ability to, and with the ability to socially distance. And I think that, we all know, we've seen studies how important the open space areas are to our mental health. And this is a very important component to that. Not to mention the great vitamin D that you get every day from getting out in the sunshine. Certainly something that I enjoy. And our quarter of a cent, again, sales tax does help to fund that. And we are looking for a master plan that will create a strategy for preserving our open space in the county and to examine how we care for and enhance the lands that we've currently set aside for preservation, and will help make the case for extending that tax into the future. Watch for opportunities to engage with our open space team to find out more about the ways in which we hope to acquire new open space and effectively manage those that we have. And now for the Transportation Master Plan on the next slide. I'm going to kick it over to my good friend Bryan. I am thrilled to be able to be the department liaison for the Public Works Office. It's a great opportunity for me to take a deeper dive into the Public Works Office. And I certainly enjoy my staff meetings with Bryan and the team over at Public Works. So Bryan, I'll let you take it from here and talk to us about the Transportation Master Plan.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Conti. Can you hear me? So I'm not
Yes,
talking to myself?
Yes.
Perfect. As was mentioned, we're in the process of updating the countywide transportation master plan. The last plan that we had was completed in 2010, and this plan will look out into the future to 2040. This is a 12 to 18 month effort that started in April, and it's scheduled to be completed in July of 2021. So you might ask the question, why do we plan? Well, transportation is always a hot topic for anyone in the metro area, and Arapahoe County is no different. Over the last 3 years, during our telephone town halls, we do surveys, and we heard from you that easing congestion is a top priority, and they would like the county to address that. With the pandemic and remote work being prevalent, we have seen a drastic decrease in traffic. But our recent traffic measures on the county's critical arterial corridors has seen non-peak hour traffic back to or exceed pre-COVID conditions. And then over the last several weeks, we've seen actually increases in the AM and PM peak hours, and to be within 10 to 15% of what pre-COVID conditions were. One example is Arapahoe Road east of Parker Road. We've actually seen AM peak hour traffic volumes match pre-COVID volumes. So while it's hard to predict the impacts of the pandemic over the long run, it's safe to say that traffic is likely going to return to pre-COVID conditions at some point. Arapahoe County is projected to surpass Denver as the most populated county in the metro area. As population grows, so does the need for county infrastructure. With growth and the corresponding additional cars on the road, creating a vision for the county's transportation network is critical to minimizing congestion, providing quality of life, ensuring short response times for emergency service providers, and guiding future growth. As the county continues to grow, we must work with our municipalities, our other partners, our residents, and to ensure that we can manage and the growth and traffic congestion that will likely come, and then look at also alternative modes of transportation. Of the approximate 1,100 miles of roadways that are in unincorporated Arapahoe County that we maintain and operate, it is a critical piece for the Denver metro area system, both for users within the county and those traveling through the county. These plans don't just sit on the shelf. The county, in many cases, in conjunction with the city and its regional partners, such as Colorado Department of Transportation or RTD, has completed or is in the process of implementing 42 projects from that old master plan that we completed in 2010. These projects range from major roadway and interchange projects to small trail and intersection projects. Projects that you might be aware of that were included in that plan and subsequently completed are the I-25 Arapahoe interchange, the Arapahoe Parker interchange, and the Arapahoe Road widening east of Parker Road. Well, what will the Transportation Master Plan do, or what will it help us in the future? Well, it helps us guide growth for the network that needs to meet that future demand in the community. It will identify issues, opportunities, vision and goals, solutions to meet all those challenges, and investment priorities. You know, statewide, voters have rejected funding options based on taxes. So we're trying to be creative. We are currently engaging the cities to figure out if there's a better way to fund our transportation infrastructure countywide. In addition, the Transportation Master Plan will educate and engage citizens on transportation funding currently and their thoughts for the future. What role can you play as citizens or businesses within the county? Well, we encourage citizen participation in the process in the top priority. We have defined and engaged it into four areas. First, listening, and that's the stage that we're in right now. And that started in July and is going to go through November. What we're doing during that stage is, most importantly, understanding what the issues are and how to improve them. Identify missing links, modes of transportation, safety, connectivity, movement in and through the county. The next step then, which will begin in January and go through March of 2021, will be define. We'll define and identify ideas and opportunities, begin shaping the vision of the plan, and then look at goals that are short-term, mid-term, long-term, and how we might prioritize those. After that then becomes the refining process, and that will begin in April and go through June of 2021. At that point, we provide we're asking for final input, and does the plan support excellent quality of life? Is it inclusive and responsive to community needs? And then finally, the advance is 2021 in July through 2040. And that's where we get the plan adopted by the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners. It gets incorporated into our comprehensive plan and is used as a guiding document. And then we implement it. And that's the long-term, short-term, and mid-range implementation plans. We have an interactive comment map that people can engage with by noting that where they experience the most congestion, safety issues, or even bad conditions of roadways. We also have an idea wall for virtual sticky notes, ideas that you can put on there, and I encourage you to take the online survey. You can also be added to the email distribution list to receive periodic updates about the transportation master planning effort. Everything is at this location, and if you can't see it on the site, the location is arapahoegov.com/transportation plan, all one word. And you'll be able to find that information and all that information. You can also view the virtual public meeting that we held on August 5th. So with that, we encourage you really to be involved, and we'd like to hear from you. And thank you again, Commissioner Conti, and I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you so much, Bryan. It's always great. It's always fascinating to hear, and I love to hear public input on our transportation projects and where they're struggling with either roadways that are in bad condition or excessive congestion, that kind of thing. And we absolutely value your input. and love to hear from the citizens. So anyway, next slide. Moving on to Metroplex. I'm sorry, yes, you already did. This is a proposal from the Federal Administration, FAA, and you may or may not have heard about this Metroplex. It is somebody's brainchild. I was very confused on this because I guess they were saying it was going to save them fuel, which ultimately saves the airlines money. But and after touring in the Denver International Airport, when I went to one of the metro area mayor's meetings, Denver talked to us about the Denver manager talked to us about the fact that United said that their most profitable hub was Denver. And I thought, well, golly gee, if it's their most profitable hub, why do we need to, be jumping through all these hoops to, try to make it more profitable? But anyway, be that as it may, that's just a little sidebar, my lack of understanding about it. And so this has been a plan that's been coming down from us, and final implementation did come in March. We have been working closely with the Centennial Airport Noise Roundtable. That is a committee that I serve on, and we are the Board of County Commissioners has written to the FAA and to state our objections. And basically, we are concerned with how the new regulations will affect the health, safety, and especially the noise. And a lot of people, what's happening is they're bringing. The new Bronco route, to quote one of the local mayors, is basically just going to follow Arapahoe Road on around to DIA. And what it does is it forces the planes going, in and around Centennial down to a lower elevation, so that we are likely to hear more noise from some of our local planes going to Centennial. And that's where the rubber meets the road, and what we are concerned about. We all know that Centennial Airport is a vital part of the community. We had the reminder at a recent Noise Roundtable meeting that what a vital partner it is with the healthcare community, and how often they are bringing in transplant hearts or body parts, or a transplant patient, literally from the entire region of this part of the nation. People come from as far as South and North Dakota to get surgeries here, and the transplant network, and literally we have like 2 of those a day coming into the Centennial Airport, and they really can't fly into DIA, so they have to come into Centennial. And if you think about it, the much better proximity to our hospitals and closer, once they're at Centennial, it's a much closer transportation time to get to our area hospitals, and if you think about all the hospitals that they have close access to, they're much closer than at DIA. And so it really is an important, Centennial Airport is an important component to not only the transportation sector, but also the healthcare sector. But we certainly want to be conscious of the noise and how that impacts the quality of life. One of the things that I did to prepare myself for the role of county commissioners is put myself through real estate school. And I'll never forget, the first right of real estate, quiet enjoyment. And so this is something that is constantly on my mind. And I think that it's constantly on the minds of a lot of our citizens as well, especially when they don't feel like they're getting it because of the noise of the travel around them. So just know that we are aware of this. We are, we do support the goal of modernizing aviation, but we believe the current proposal will cause a significant environmental impact to the community and negatively impact the quality of life for us here. And so that's why we have decided to join the lawsuit against the FAA and fighting this measure on behalf of the citizens. So anyway, just a little bit about Metroplex. moving on, let's talk about, obviously the COVID-19 crisis. As you know, the shutdowns began in March, and most of the county staff started pretty early, beginning to work remotely. We've been able to make the best of it. As a matter of fact, we've been doing most of our meetings virtually and online, and without too much of a hitch. And now that we've begun to reopen, in-person services are by appointment only. We still have work to do if we want to slow or stop the spread of the virus. And so these are the same things that we've been hearing for some time. Wear a mask, maintain social distancing, and wash your hands frequently. And I think if we all do this, we will continue to see low rates of infection and be able to increase our time that we can ease some of the restrictions. I know that Tri-County Health has already submitted to the public health office at the state for us to go into the protect our neighbor status. And we're waiting to see if they're going to approve that. We have been granted a variance from the state public health office in late June, but we need to, all of these things that we're doing, if we can continue doing it, I think we can continue to see our case numbers, stay at that low level, and we will be able to move to that next protect our neighbor reduced restriction status. And okay, let's go to the next slide. The CARES funding. This is a federal program, came down to the county. We had $114.5 million from the federal government that landed in our bank account. 51 million of that, 0.6, we shared directly with our 13 city partners. And the idea was that they could offer grants to go for COVID-specific relief efforts and to support our economic recovery. This was, they had two different types of grants for both work slowdown and for personal protective equipment purchase. And so both of these things were targets and so forth, for our businesses to help them weather through this storm. And we have done a first round of grants that we've distributed out to businesses. And I think we're going for round two as we have time and money still available. Obviously, at the county, our first mode of distribution will go to those businesses in unincorporated Arapahoe County. If you are in an incorporated city, you need to pursue those grants through the city that you're in, and if you do not exceed the maximum level of funding through the city, then you can also pursue through the county. But it just depends on, or if the city is out of funds, then you can apply to the county. The Community Resources Office is working with our Arapahoe Douglas Works, and they're hosting regular webinars around hiring skills and skills training and retraining and programs that match employers with prospective employees. A lot of industries that, the hospitality industry and so forth, that we really just don't know how long it's going to be before they're able to get back up and running, and people are feeling the need to get some new skills and broaden their employability opportunities. And so our Arapahoe Douglas Works partners are doing a great job, helping people with gaining new skills and training so that they can pursue employment opportunities elsewhere in industries that are thriving. And, we just heard yesterday about Amazon hiring 33,000 more people. So obviously that's a business that has, done nothing but bloom through this COVID crisis because of the nature of how their business model. And so, anyway, that you get the idea there, of how, some retraining could, help some of these people. This department also offers rental and mortgage assistance, and you should know that, for whose income has been affected by the shutdowns. And so we are continuing to administer our programs for veterans and seniors as well as many others that come in. And so Arapahoe Douglas Works is a great resource, and certainly one that you want to take advantage of, especially if you have been impacted in your job by COVID. Okay, next slide. Arapahoe Cares, another aspect of our CARES funding has gone to hotel and motel vouchers for people who are experiencing homelessness as a result of COVID, who are in need of temporary housing because COVID has made it unsafe for them to live at home. And so this is a very widespread program, and we really have invested a fairly large dollar base to help the underserved that are falling in this category. We've also established similar programs to provide CARES funding to food banks and Meals on Wheels organizations that have also been affected by the crisis, on top of programs that we already administer. We've also used CARES funding to reimburse behavioral and physical health organizations for telehealth operations, personal protective equipment, and sanitation supplies. So all of that was allowed under the CARES funding model, and we've been very faithful to share that to reimburse our behavioral and physical health organizations for those needs. Arapahoe County excels in providing mandated services like food assistance, Medicaid, and response to child abuse and neglect reports. It has been very helpful to have such strong performance heading into the pandemic. And Arapahoe County Human Services received the CSTAT award from the state for the 4th year in a row for distinguished performance. They always find a way to do a great job. And despite difficult circumstances, and they really are some of our frontline people that are in harm's way as far as this COVID is concerned, the people that have to go into homes to do these home visits and so forth. And there is an increasing movement to move them into that first responder category because of the excessive risks that they have to endure. Let's see here. We also excel in providing mandated services like food assistance and Medicaid and response, all of these things through our Human Services Office. And so this has been a great way that they have been able to continue to shine, and winning that CSTAT award is just a classic, proof of their shining performances. And so, and their overall effectiveness in providing these mandated services. Arapahoe is the only large county that's received this award for many consecutive years. And so the bigger you get, the harder it is to maintain some of those statistics. Next slide. Okay, let's move on to the Arapahoe Sheriff's Office. They do provide public safety to about 644,000 people. Let's get that correct. They cover about 900 square miles, all of unincorporated, and plus they supply the police services for the city of Centennial. In addition to that, Bennett, Deer Trail, Foxfield, and all of unincorporated Arapahoe County. We have 8 patrol precincts and manage the 1,500-bed detention facility. It is 1,500 beds because we are double, if not triple bunked in there. That is an absolute max number that we can carry. You've heard about that through a lot of our jail presentations, hopefully, and days gone by. In 2019, annual reports, some of the highlights that they talked to us about is that the case reports declined since 2018. And the reason for that is because we've had more incidents resolved. The district attorney's office will choose not to prosecute, or the judges will choose to move them into a probationary setting. And so, we've had less demand on that. we've had over 84,000 plus calls for service, and these are calls about motor vehicle theft that were the highest, with over 900 cases. We've only had, through all of these calls and all these different cases, we've only had 2 use of force complaints. And so that is pretty amazing, and a great testament that our sheriff's deputies are, really making an effort to do it right. We've had a 40% drop in the number of sustained internal affairs cases, and our response time has averaged a mere 4 minutes. And so that's all very impressive. As many of you know, our sheriff's office is accredited, and that is, really a shining star, element and proof that they are, again, trying to do it as best as is possible. And the Triple Crown Award was also something that our sheriff's office received in 2020, with 3 governing bodies that accredited law enforcement, and only 5% of law enforcement agencies achieve this level of accreditation. And so, again, enough said there. They are one of the shining examples of great law enforcement. So thank you guys over at the Sheriff's Office for all you do to try to keep our community safe and well protected. Next slide. Post-COVID, despite the recent number of infusion of CARES Act funding, everyone will continue to feel the economic effects of this year's events for some time, and Arapahoe County is no exception. As we move forward into our 2020 budget, thank you for that movement, the property tax growth of only 3.2% in 2020 compared to 4.6% in 2019, as new construction and inflation did decrease. And the general fund operating budget of about $200 million, and the total county budget of about $430 million. Our operating budget was structurally balanced with a small surplus. As a matter of fact, we had the smallest surplus that we've seen in many, many years. And that is concerning to us at the county. We don't like to leave ourselves in that situation, but that is where we found ourselves. Slower revenue growth and limit our ability to increase the funding for programs and services. And which saddens our heart. And in the meantime, our expenditure needs continue to grow at a faster rate than our ability to pay for them. Obviously, inflationary needs with the cost of equipment, and whether it's motor vehicle equipment or it's other types of equipment, or it's unfunded mandates that are coming down on us from the state. We just, it's a constant something, we're having to take more and more out of existing resources. The recent, decrease in the sales tax revenues and fallout from the pandemic is an immediate concerning for our city partners. This county, because people pay their property taxes in arrears, it'll hit us a little bit later. And so they get hit immediately. We get hit usually, we feel the hit later. And so we're still to come, and we will obviously be talking to you more about that as the level of impact is hitting us. And we probably won't feel that until about 2022. And so, because about 68% of our income does come from property taxes, whereas about the same percentage is about true for our cities on sales taxes. And so, obviously, sales taxes take the immediate hit; property taxes take a later hit. So we'll be talking to you about that, but obviously there is declining sales tax revenues for them as well, and they are feeling it now, and we will feel it later. Okay, so just a little bit on the budget element as we look ahead. Next slide. Property tax, as I said, is our largest source of revenue, and it continues to be limited by the provisions of Tabor and impacted by the economy and Gallagher and the intersection of those two pieces of legislation. And we're one of the few counties still in this position, as we are under that Tabor. We are still a Tabor-controlled county. The good news about that, it slows the ability that we have to grow. And the blessing of that is when you hit economic impact, it makes it so, the slower you have grown, the less you have to fall. And so, we were one of the few counties in the last economic turndown, I know, that did not have to lay off employees. And that was and that was largely due to the fact that we had limited the growth because of Tabor. So it's a blessing and a curse, but depends on how you look at it. And our budget, our finance director, Todd Weaver, always talks about the blessing and the curse element of being Tabor controlled. And it really does have, a sword that cuts both ways, that is very friendly to us, and sometimes it's not so much. But the problem is that we are projecting gaps in our funding needs across a number of operating programs and the capital project areas. We have a backlog of deferred maintenance and facility roadways. Infrastructures will continue to grow. And that means that in 2021, the balancing the budget will likely require reductions to road maintenance and levels of service. Of course, this saddens our hearts. We don't like to see this. But beyond 2021, growth in other operating funds, such as for human services and in the general fund, will put strains on the balancing the budget without reductions in service levels. So that is really one of the reasons why we try to fight so heavily preventing unfunded mandates from the state, because we are under such tight constraints in every other aspect of our budget. And that is certainly something that we work at and pay very close attention. We don't anticipate any additional funding resources. And so, evidently the citizens are asking us to find greater efficiencies. And we may have to look at, of course, that'll be probably one of the last resorts, potential service level of changes. There are services that we offer at the county that we are not statutorily required to offer. So those will have to have a hard look if we can continue those. We keep in mind that the county has our mill levy is sitting at 11.684 for 2020, and that is the absolute rock bottom lowest of any county in the Front Range and the metro area. And we have not seen a tax increase at the county since 1991. So we've been doing more with less for a really long time, and trying to be very fiscally conservative and great stewards of your tax dollars. But there is going to come a point where there's just no further we can tighten. And so that's why we're, having to look at, the potential for service levels of change. Okay. So we've got some big and very tough decisions that lie before us and these uncertain times. And so, we'd like to know, what keeps you up at night? What issues are most important to you? If you didn't vote for 1A, what could we have done differently? So we'd love to hear from you. We're going to continue.
Well, thank you, Commissioner.
Yes.
We're open it up to questions, and in addition to asking us questions, you're welcome to attend any of our other virtual town halls. We're going to do one. Commissioner Conti mentioned the mental health benefits of enjoying our open spaces. We're going to do a COVID-specific virtual town hall with all 5 commissioners, plus some guests from some area mental health agencies. And we're going to talk about the mental health effects of the COVID crisis. That's going to be on Thursday, September 24th, so 2 weeks from tonight at 7 o'clock. And we encourage you to join us for that. If you want to ask, if you're on the phone and you want to ask us a question tonight, push *3 and you'll be sent to an operator who will put you through to Director Weimer and Commissioner Conti. And we do, as you might imagine, have quite a few questions about transportation. But before I get into that, I want to ask Commissioner Conti, you mentioned unfunded mandates a couple times. And I know
Yes.
that's a topic that's a focus for you. Can you talk a little bit about what that means exactly? Like what's an example of one and how it affects our spending and budget planning?
Absolutely. One unfunded mandate that came in the middle of the last session, and I talk about the fact that this position is very nonpartisan in its nature. 99.8% of our votes are unanimous around the Board of County Commissioners, and that is a great example of that. If it's coming down from the state, if it's an unfunded mandate, it really does not matter what the policy is around the Board of County Commissioners. We are not only a no, we're a hell no, and literally go down to the Capitol testifying shoulder to shoulder, Republican, Democrat, against these unfunded mandates. The last time that we were down at the Capitol was testifying in opposition to the paid family leave bill, Exhibit A. They were the way that bill was originally written. It was going to apply to counties. And so despite the fact that we already had a paid family leave program that offered superior benefits, we would have to abandon that. We would have to take on this new program from the state, pay $300,000 more for it, and pull money out of each and every employee's paycheck as well. And so that put us in the absolute no with a capital N category, and going down to the Capitol to testify jointly. I was able to, offer, when I walk into the committee room, I can tell you that it is old stomping grounds for me. I've sat in these shoes. I know half of these representatives because I have served with them, and I know what's going through their minds. So I really do. This is something that I really enjoy, and I think I do excel at, the ability to deliver testimony that really helps us prevent some of these. I was told by several legislators that after I testified on this, that they did offer an amendment to exempt local governments who already had a paid family leave program that offered equal or superior benefits. And so this is one of the things that I really try to do. Unfortunately, we dodged that bullet, but then at the end of session, you heard about the police reform bill that went through. The initial estimates from our law enforcement were right at $1 million annually that it was going to cost us for the estimated 8 FTE and storage capacity for the video of the additional cameras that would be required. And we knew that there was more expenses coming as they've continued to do the research and figure out the cost of the additional cameras, the cost of the storage, the cost of the FTE to download the footage and to store that for a minimum of 2 years. We're now hitting $3 million per year unfunded from that bill as it hits the county. And we're all bracing, and truly we're not finished counting the potential costs of 217 on the county because it did reduce our immunity, our governmental immunity, which will undoubtedly increase our insurance costs. We had already gotten notice from our insurance provider that they were not going to insure any kind of governments anymore. And so we were going to have to find a new insurance provider. And so this is just going to make it that much more difficult for us to find that with some of these new impending policies on us. So this is what I'm talking about with unfunded mandates and how they impact us in a very negative way. And so, unfortunately, because of the nature of 217, when coming down, it was introduced in the last week of the legislative session. And so it went from, introduction to finish in 1 week. And with 54 amendments that got added to it before it was passed, always a sign of probably not the best written when it gets amended 54 times. And so this is, why this is a particular, we really do pay attention, and about 25% of our time when the legislature's in session is spent either in meetings talking about bills or actually down at the Capitol testifying, usually in opposition, because it is hitting us with an unfunded mandate.
Interesting. Yeah, there's the ripple effects are kind of endless.
Absolutely.
So we have an online question here this is for Director Weimer. And I think this comes up quite a bit, actually. There's a lot of confusion about what our Public Works Department is responsible for and not responsible for. So the question is, how much authority does the county have over traffic and roads in communities such as Englewood, Sheridan, and Littleton?
Thank you, Luke. Really, we do not have a lot of authority within those jurisdictions. A city has, as an incorporated jurisdiction, has responsibility to operate and maintain facilities within their jurisdiction. However, we do partner with our local cities and other jurisdictions, even CDOT, to provide improvements. And those partnerships are really centered around larger type projects, capacity type projects, projects that are meaningful for the entire county. An example, like I mentioned before, was Arapahoe and I-25. Although not around an unincorporated portion of the county did lead that project and also participated in funding along with Greenwood Village, City of Centennial, a metro district called SPIMED, which is the Southeast Public Improvement Authority Metro District, and Colorado Department of Transportation, as well as our federal partners from FHWA. And so that's an example where we do partner. But when you're looking at operations and maintenance and a lot of the capital projects, it is the responsibility of the individual jurisdictions. However, this transportation plan that I talked about is a countywide plan. So as we develop it, we will be developing it with our city partners because there's an interconnectivity between the cities and the county, and we need to make sure that interoperability is available to all the users of our transportation system. So thank you for the question and hope that answers it.
Yeah, and to follow up on that, on the Transportation Master Plan, can you talk a little bit about how you're looking beyond just cars and trucks and things like bike lanes, pedestrian lanes, other mobility, non-traditional mobility processes?
Yes, the transportation plan is certainly looking at roadway networks, and that's, cars and trucks and freight and those sorts of issues. But we're also looking at it as a multimodal type transportation plan. And when we look at that, it's not only transit or light rail, it also includes bikes. It could include scooters, could include autonomous different types of services. It might be a shuttle. It could be mobility on demand. It could be how do we utilize the private service providers like Lyft and Uber. And so that's all part of our transportation system as we're looking at it. And also how technology plays into this into the future. That will be a major focus as we move forward with our transportation plan. The other thing that I'd like to mention with that, and that is that, we're going to look at hotspots. We're looking at where are those congested areas, where there might be missing gaps, and incorporate those into our transportation plan. A couple of years ago, we finished a county-wide bike and pedestrian plan, and that comprehensive plan will be integrated into this plan as well. So we're looking at all modes and realizing that there is a shift, and there could be a shift in demand based on COVID, and the realization that teleworking can work in certain situations. So will that affect us down the road? And so we're considering that as well.
Yeah, that's certainly something that all businesses and entities are considering. And that actually feeds into my next question for Commissioner Conti. You mentioned
Yes.
the, projections and the sort of slow rolling effects of COVID that we might experience in terms of property taxes and stuff. I have an online question here that says, have there been layoffs at the county because of COVID? And how much of staff are still working from home? And how do you see that evolving over the next rest of the year, next year, that kind of thing?
No, there have not been layoffs at the county. We were very happy that we did not have to do that. As a matter of fact, if they did a great job of retraining. If we had some areas, some people that could not continue doing their job as they had been doing, a lot of retraining efforts did happen, and retrained people for new positions that they were able to do, whether it was scanning documents for our electronic storage or processing new CARES dollars or other kinds of government grant dollars to help with housing and things of that nature. So that really we were able to. I was very pleased to see that we did not have to lay off anybody, and we were pretty successful getting everybody back to work in some capacity or another. Just about. I think there were a few people that might have been home, but not in a layoff situation.
Right. And I think we have something around 50% of staff working from home or doing alternate days and things like that. And it obviously
Right.
varies by department. If you work at the DMV, you have to go to the office to work. But I think, as speaking for the employee side, I think we're all pretty grateful that we were able to use some ingenuity to keep everybody getting their paychecks.
Yes.
So we have time, I think, for one more. I want to ask this one for you, Commissioner. As a commissioner and as a resident of Arapahoe County, what does quality of life mean to you?
Quality of life, that's obviously, it's a very relative question. A lot of people focus on different things when that's important to them for different types of quality of life. One of the things that I think of is, of course, you don't have any quality of life if you don't feel safe. And I can remember after 9/11, that hit home in a really big way when really the security and the safety of America was shaken after the trade towers and the Pentagon and so forth were attacked, and nobody knew when the next shoe was going to drop, and there was this fear literally that gripped America as we are at that anniversary point. And I remember thinking to myself at the time, if you don't feel safety in your community, you don't have. I mean, that is foundational, and that has to be there in order for people to have any kind of quality of life. So obviously that's one of the first things that I think of. Above and beyond that, of course, access to, good services and care, and not only health care, but mental health care, access to quality food, and our retailers and our, vendors, and there's a whole host of things that go into it. A lot of people, think that quality of life also includes access to the arts, and and certainly that does provide a great element of enhancing your quality of life. And I love the fact that we do have a great little theater right here in Littleton, the Town Hall Arts Center, and I know that they've partnered with Hudson Gardens to put on their new production of Almost Heaven, and that's coming up in the next few days there at the Hudson Gardens. It is my honor to serve on their board, and so very excited that they found a way. Obviously, they can't do anything in their little enclosed theater, so they found a way to partner with Hudson Gardens and make something still happen. And I love the ingenuity and the way that they've been finding a way to bloom despite difficult circumstances. So thrilled to see that. And I think that also, hugely impacts quality of life. So anyway, those are just a few of the elements that I think go into it, and open space has got to be part of that. The access to those, and the trails, and quality parks, and recreation opportunities for our kids, and safe places for our kids to play and recreate. I think that's one of the beauties of Colorado, is that it offers us, this incredible climate to get out and enjoy the outdoors. And so the opportunity to do that in a safe and meaningful way, I think, is very important to people, and certainly contributes also to quality of life.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And thanks to both of you for steering us through these many topics tonight. And thanks to everyone who attended. And we will do another round of conversations with the commissioner starting in October. And please join us also on Thursday, September 24th for the virtual town hall, COVID and mental health. Thanks again, and have a good evening.
Thanks for joining us. It's great to be with you guys.
The Access Live event has ended. For more information on future events, like